Hey, friends.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
I was talking to our audience.
What?
But Jess, welcome back.
Come on.
Welcome back, Jess.
I was happy. I was on last week's.
Yes,
so
I know.
I have not been gone anywhere.
No,
I'm
that's true.
right here. Sort of.
Does anybody have any front desk check-ins that we need to go through today, this morning, this afternoon?
Can we point out Matt's shirt?
That was what I had.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, on the
Sorry, I
docket.
didn't mean to beat you to it.
Definitely needs to be pointed
I
out.
received a text message while you guys were away in Guatemala.
Uh-huh.
Or did I even get a text message first? No, I think I
No, you received a package.
received a package and I
Yeah.
opened it up and I'm like, this is a flowery shirt right
Uh-huh.
up my alley. And then I first noticed there were pictures of someone on it. So like, actually, there's one picture where you're wearing like a light blue shirt. I'm like, is that me? Like, 'cause I had a shirt that was similar in color. Like, and I opened it up and it was it was all your face, all over, all different pictures. And I first texted my sister because she would be a one to do that.
It would be a Colleen thing
It was.
to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
would be
she
my second
said,
guess.
she said no, but can I see a picture of it? And she said, I didn't do it, but it's awesome. And props to whoever did it.
Uh-huh.
And then I showed you.
Yes.
I think.
Well, you text me and said, "Did you get me a shirt?"
Right.
And I was like, "Nope.
Nope.
You should text Jessica."
Because I got you a shirt.
I love this shirt. Just so you know, I have another one in my bag in case you were like, absolutely not.
Uh-huh.
But then I was like, I know. And I'm like, why? It's a great.
You wore it to the
Mm.
airport to pick us up.
I did.
So
Yep.
I think at this point, I'm half expecting you to wear it to trivia tonight.
Mm, I hadn't thought about that.
I feel like
Okay.
you should wear it to the finals.
Yeah.
I feel like you should save it for the
Oh,
finals.
Save it for the finals.
Save it for the finals.
But
absolutely.
then if you have a repeat of last time's finals and you
Win.
win again,
Mhm.
then you basically have to wear it every day next season.
Yes, I do.
No, I don't think
So-
that's a good idea.
Oh, I love it so
I think
much.
nobody needs to see that shirt that much.
I think it's going to be great.
Do you get to choose where the pictures are on the
You
shirt?
don't get to choose where the pictures are, but you get to choose
Oh.
the pictures. So really,
Very
it's
funny.
it's supposed to be put your pet on a
It's
shirt.
supposed to be a pic-
It's supposed to be put your pet.
pictures.
And then I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, I'm gonna put all the dogs on a shirt for Matt. Like that's so cute. I'm gonna buy Matt a little present. And then I was like, I don't even have pictures. Like, where are all the pictures? And I was like, you don't have so many pictures of Jeannie's face. Yep.
Yeah.
So the idea just
was
bubbled
a
up
thing.
and
It's great.
manifested.
I love it so much. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
And it's green. It's my new power color.
Yeah,
so
it is.
even better.
Yep.
Even more
Sweet.
reason.
So good.
Even more reason why I will never not be wearing it at some point. There will not be a week that goes by where this shirt isn't on me for an entire day.
Okay.
So
Okay.
You're welcome, Jeannie. You're
I'll
welcome,
wear it.
Jeannie.
I'll probably wear it a lot when you're gone again.
Mhm.
I'll just
Yeah.
wear it. I'll wear it to the book sale.
Nice.
Go to Wegmans.
It's good.
It's gonna be good.
Bitches need to know you're taken.
Good God.
Jessica said bitches on our podcast.
Great.
You can cut it if you want.
Nah. We'll leave it in there.
We could say people because I'm,
People.
Bitches
Oh,
are
Bitches
bitches
does
is
not
not a
designate
gender. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gender fluid term.
Anybody who's making eyes at you
Anyone who's
Oh.
trying to mack it to you right now
is a
Yeah.
is
bitch.
a little bitch.
Oh,
Francie has never been on a podcast,
Where
and
is
I've
this
been on here before.
podcast going?
We're gonna talk about course creation.
I know. Josh was like, "Don't worry, they're just gonna talk about a bunch of stuff."
Yeah.
Like, and then course production will be a little bit here,
Little bit here and there.
But then overall, it's just
Overall,
a bunch of
it's-
other stuff.
It's a bunch of
Yeah.
goofing around. It's
Yeah.
what we do, you know.
yeah. I mean, it's like any good meeting or work conversation doesn't really start with thing a lot of times. There's
Yeah.
a lot of goofing around,
Mhm.
which I am a big proponent of.
You know, there's so many benefits to workplace goofing.
Yeah, it's like this is where we have
Morale. It's for morale.
it's for morale. This
Morale.
is where like Josh is imperative. It's,
Right.
You know, he's the hype man
Mhm.
for everything. He's the morale.
He's the ambassador of goof.
He's the ambassador.
He's just a horse.
Josh is a horse.
We did never talk about the
I know.
Dungeons
our
and
fun day.
Dragons
Oh,
fun
no?
day.
We did not.
Oh.
Do we want to talk about that quickly
I mean,
or briefly?
We can talk about it briefly.
We don't have to talk very fast.
I mean, I'm curious. I'm curious what everybody's thought was on their first Dungeons and Dragons experience.
So we did two
No,
things.
I had so
Yeah.
much fun.
First thing we did was we rode go-karts for an hour.
Yep.
And I'm glad I was not the only one that the next day felt like they had played a football game.
Yeah.
I was sore, my butt hurt, my legs were sore
Go karting.
from go-karting.
It was a lot.
So intense.
I
did
texted the group and I was like, who else
Who else?
feels like they got beat up?
Yes.
You guys were
most-
going crazy on the on the road.
Yeah.
You felt fine?
I was like, I was keeping it safe.
I mean, my butt and hips definitely felt it a little bit like jostling, but I wasn't like super, super sore. Like I could feel it, but I wasn't super sore. But I was also not trying to like win a NASCAR race
It's true.
at the go-kart track.
You're right.
So I didn't
It
go
was-
as hard.
I was definitely trying to win a NASCAR
Yeah.
race,
You were.
and
That's a good one.
my arms hurt.
Oh my
from
God.
gripping that wheel around those corners.
That was so much
When
fun.
I tried really hard to hit the pedal, I felt it after the last round.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I felt like I was like, oh, I would definitely get calluses if I did this
for a
for
living.
the full hour.
As a professional.
like a professional. But it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a really
Yeah,
good
sweet.
idea.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then we came
after
back.
we did go-karting for an hour, grabbed food, came to the studio, and played D&D.
So fun.
And
Was
it was everyone's first time, but yours and Jeannie's,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So
That's right.
we were all D&D newbies.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
You guys
So-
did great.
That is also
like-
true.
Very. I mean, I think that one of the things that we forget how to do as adults, even before we're like officially adults, is we forget how to pretend.
Mm.
Like pretending is something that slowly fades away. I mean, like I've seen it with, I watched it with the kids, right? Just like the older that they got, the harder it was to like be in that imaginative play.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, if you haven't done D&D, right? Like you're not playing a role-playing video game. There are not like visuals. There's
Right.
not like, this is all happening up here.
There's a story being
So,
told, but you
yeah.
have to picture everything.
You have to picture
I mean,
everything.
there was a piece of paper with some
Sharpie
outlines
on
on it.
You're right. There was a
Yeah.
rudimentary map on
Uh-huh.
big grid paper.
Hmm. And Josh turned himself into a horse to
Oh, that's right.
rescue
That's
a
where
boy.
that came-
Yeah.
So that's why Josh is
Josh
a
is a
horse.
horse.
Mhm.
There were so
That's-
many
that was so
wonderful
funny.
things from that session. First of all, yeah, for everyone that had never played, part of running a game with a bunch of noobs, the worry is that how are they going to handle, like, basically when you say to them, so what do you do?
what do you
Right?
do?
And then
Uh-huh.
sometimes, like, what do you mean? What do I do? I don't know. What are my choices? And there's like that whole, like you said, getting over the
Mhm.
hump of like relearning to pretend.
Mhm.
But everyone was just so easily
Mhm.
and able to just say, "Oh, my character does this," or
Mhm.
"I'm going to try to do this." So that was awesome. As someone running the game, that made it easy and fun. So that was great. And then you get like the one-liners that you repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks, where it's like Josh is a horse,
Josh is a horse.
you know, because he was I forget the
He was
character's
a
name.
human. I can't remember.
Who could shape?
Right, not a
Yeah.
bard,
Remember? Oh,
not a bard.
No, he was a
what
bard.
was it? Ronaldo.
Druid. He's a
Ren-
druid.
A
Ronaldo.
A druid, yeah.
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo or Ramondo or
Ramondo
something.
or
I
something
think
like
it's
that.
Ramondo, yeah.
Ramondo,
Because I was
it
like
wasn't
Romano.
that. Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
cheese.
It was,
Yeah.
I loved it. And
it
part,
was a cheese.
and this is funny is because as a DM, you're making the story and thinking, okay, here's like the hook. Here's like what you want the players to hopefully come to the realization to do and how to get them to do it. So immediately I had a child being led to a gallows that thankfully you all decided to rescue. And then like that was going to be the heart of the story where like you help this kid throughout the journey and he's going to guide you. But very quickly, everyone got so annoyed with this kid for no reason at all.
Josh started it.
No
Josh
reason.
started
Like
it.
I didn't like role play the kid as like annoying
Nope.
or just and no, it was just like, oh, this is a 12-year-old boy and we all hate him because he's a 12-year-old.
Oh my god.
I mean, we were like trying to get rid of him. We were like, how do we offload this kid?
My favorite part is that once we got to the end
Uh-huh.
and the session was over and Matt was like, none of you have asked this child their name.
Yep.
Like not one of you have been like, yo,
Which
we just
What's your
saved you
name,
from
kid?
death. What's your name?
yep, no one cared to know as this boy's name. He
It
has
was
one.
funny because we were a little bit like, "Ugh, I guess we gotta save this kid.
We're like, can we shove him in that bag that holds everything?
Right. We're gonna put it in
Just put
Francine's
him
purse.
in there and just leave him there.
Leave him there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
great.
It was really
And
fun.
another of the amazing parts was that if let's say we had accomplished probably 33% of what I had planned.
Mm.
So whenever we want to pick up after next staff meeting, or that was the idea or whatever, it's already planned, which is
Mhm.
fantastic.
So
It's like
good.
being a teacher. It's like, oh, we got through half of this. I'm already planning for
Nice.
tomorrow.
Plan for
Yep.
tomorrow.
Your work is done.
Yeah.
It's good.
So goofing off is good for morale.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
hmm I felt closer to all of you.
Yeah, that's what happens.
D&D does that, man. It
Mm-hmm.
does.
It does, and like, you know, you can't just be in like work mode all the time with people. It doesn't, like, that's not a sustainable way to interact. Like, you have to see
Yeah.
each other in different roles and different aspects and that kind of stuff too. So it's more personal.
Well, I think especially if you want people to stick around.
Right, yeah, especially if, like,
If your,
you wanna feel like you
goal is
belong
that,
to a
like,
thing.
Yeah.
And I would say
Belonging, yeah.
even more so with how much remote work we do. Like,
Mhm.
we come together on Wednesdays,
hmm
we have monthly meetings, like, and then we're interacting via
Computer
text and Slack
screens.
and computer screens. So
Yeah.
it's even more important, I think, when there's a remote work.
Yeah,
environment.
I'm
Yeah.
reflecting back on my time teaching, and even if there wasn't like, oh, the social studies department will do this together, like go out to lunch on the last day of the year or whatever. At least there were times where like I would go to another teacher's room and chat and just
Yeah,
like
you
hanging
go in-
out,
I
like
would
you
go
know,
into your office.
Yep.
And we worked at the massage
Hanging out by the
room.
water cooler.
yeah, where I had those like moments, brief
Yeah.
moments of like talking about something that isn't work.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But yeah, that doesn't happen a lot in the structure we have. So
Yeah.
Because a lot of our structure is online
That's right.
in courses that we create.
In courses we create.
wow, that wasn't quite a
Speaking
it wasn't a
of
quite a
courses.
shoehorn, but it wasn't bad.
It was a pretty good one.
Oh,
So what are we here to talk
what's
about?
the what's the segue alarm?
Master of ceremonies.
Is that what I am?
Yeah, sure.
Oh boy. It's gonna be a short ceremony. We're here to talk about. I'm here to learn about course creation at YFI at Yoga for Mythica.
Mhm.
What goes into making courses? Yeah, no, that's all I got
Okay.
right now.
Wow. Wow.
I'm gonna learn so much
You
today.
are.
You are.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Well, I think that there's a few different parts, right? So when and I think we're going to stick to course creation in regards to like online courses.
Yep.
Like,
Okay.
and like what we would call in-house a CEU course. So
Oh,
continuing
okay.
education
That's
course.
kind of what I thought. I did not anticipate this being one of like the 200-hour, 300-hour programs.
No, not
Like
like,
a CEU.
I mean,
okay.
the steps are basically the same. It's just on such an exponential scale, right? So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna go into the little scale.
Yeah.
little scale.
Just still
of-
big
Well, that I
scale,
feel like
because-
there's a lot of individuality. Like whoever wants to make it can make
Mhm.
it something that they want, and it's not always like, well, this is the 200-hour, and this is what it's about,
right.
and there's no real
Mm.
deviation.
Yeah, it's true. There's a bit more creativity within teaching short courses or continuing education courses, because like for the most part, when you're creating like a 6-week course or an 8-week course or whatever it is, you're not beholden to like Yoga Alliance standards on topics and hours and things. So you can be fully creative and just teach what you want as
Mm.
long as you're very clear about what it is you're teaching. But I think that there's like 3 main components, I want to say. So there's the behind the scenes creative course being
The outline.
Oh no, that's
like,
not me.
yeah, course being designed, right? So
This
there's
is-
that.
It's like the
Mhm.
brainstorm, where like the inspiration
That's
Yeah.
and like
So there's that part.
no bad ideas, write it all down. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Let's get
And this
the
is what
creative.
the teacher does. The actual
Yes.
course
Yeah.
educator does.
The
Mhm.
educator does that. And then there's the behind the scenes, like build out of things going on the website, promotion, marketing, payments, all of the like what we would consider the back end
Mhm.
of building a course. And then there's like course actual launch and execution. So making
Delivery.
sure that like things are being delivered, that schedules work. And so of course, like Francine and I do and other contributing educators, we have Lynn Frazier and Jaya has taught courses. My mom has taught courses, Kim Beekman. We have a handful of repeater educators. Ariana
Yep.
is going to be teaching another course. So
Starting soon.
Yeah, starting
Mhm.
really soon in astrology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the 3 months of the summer. Her courses are beautiful, you guys too. Shout out to Ariana.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, she's such an artist in every way.
exactly, like she's combining astrology with meditation and yoga and like an art element with watercolor. Like it's going to be a really good course. So
Mhm.
check that out if you haven't.
Yeah, we're gonna take that course together.
Oh, cool.
I already told you this before.
You did. I think when you said Ariana's name,
Yeah.
I thought that's what that would be. Rad.
So typically, like, we're on the create shit end of things, right? And then it's like we got to put that idea out there, let Jessica know that this is something, and then it's like all the systems go. So what are the pieces that you're looking at? Like when I send you, like, this is what I'm going to teach, this is how many weeks it is,
Yeah.
where do you go from there?
Well, so usually it's a verbal conversation first, and you're like, "This is what I'm called to teach right now." And I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Thanks for
Give
phrasing it that
me-
way, so there won't be a no.
Hard
Hard to say no when you
There's
phrase it like
never-
a calling.
it's
It's
never
never
a
a
no.
no.
Jessica
Jeannie-
doesn't tell me no.
If Jeannie wants to teach something, she can teach it. And then I'm like, okay, I need website copy. Like,
Right.
I need actual like what this course is about. So there's the website design piece. And that piece is both like really fun because it's creative, but it also like it takes a while because we have a lot of different components that we put into each web page. And so often what happens is I get like excited because I've completed this like thing that you can see and that like looks good.
It's so pretty.
And then I'm like, it's done. And then I'm like, it's not done. I still have to like set up the back end zaps that make all the communication pieces talk to each other. And I got to set up the payment stuff. And then I got to do the piece with our database to make sure that they all land in the right place. So yeah, those are all the pieces. And then I communicate with Sabrina, who does all of our social media, and Rose, who does our email marketing, and just make sure that there's a timely schedule for people to let people know. And yeah, my stuff's all, like you said, back end,
back end, and then there's like back end of back end.
back end of back end.
And
Mhm.
I also think like this is the piece of course creation that people don't often think about.
Right. They like think
No.
it's like the thinking and then the
Right.
delivering.
Right.
But there's all those pieces
Yeah.
in order to make it smooth. And then even then, like I'm watching every registration that comes in because
Sometimes it gets weird.
computers are weird and systems are weird and yeah.
Last minute registration.
Last minute registrations.
15 seconds before class
Yes,
starts, the
and
first
Uh-huh.
class.
all they want to know everything in the middle of first class.
Uh-huh.
What's the correct textbook?
Yep. Yeah, I think that when people hear the words course creation, they think like, oh, I have an idea. I want to teach like a chakra meditation course, right? So all I need to do is figure out what I'm teaching for these 7 classes and put it out there, and people are gonna sign up, show up. And I want to, like, even though we're talking about online courses, because that's typically what we produce, all the back end stuff, except for building out a digital classroom, still has to happen to
Mhm.
register people in an in-person class. So like, I think that this is the part of yoga business that isn't talked about enough or isn't like put out there, that there's, I mean, it was certainly shocking to me the first time, developing a series of yoga classes that were like a package and people were going to sign up for them. It's like, oh, I have to handle like registrations and paperwork and like making sure I have
Mhm.
people's payment information, making sure that payments go through, making sure that people, understand what their responsibility is and if there's a textbook and if there's other things they need to purchase. So I just think that sometimes that back end piece isn't like,
Because it's not the exciting part.
It's not the exciting part.
It's not, yeah,
it's not
I
the
was
download. It's not the
thinking-
yeah.
thinking about like the inception of it, where it's like you get this idea and then like you get so like jazzed by it, where then you run with it. Like, oh, I want to teach this thing. I get to do this activity with this, and then do this.
Mhm.
And then it's like the perfect marriage of like that inspiration and then like the groundedness of like how do you actually execute it in a successful way,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is hard to do. I mean, sometimes if you're lucky, if you're like a teaching partner where it's like you're the juice and I'm the grounded one, where it's
Mhm.
like I will lay all these out in a way that's deliverable and makes sense. You hit me with the ideas, and it's like to go back between the two is hard, kind of fun. I like it. I don't know. Sometimes when I would teach, I would always have these awesome ideas. And sometimes actually the more fun would be like, how do I make this work?
Right.
Because it's like a puzzle. It's like,
It
how
is
do I
like a puzzle.
how do I lay this out where it's engaging and informative and
People
stuff
are
like
gonna
that.
get it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna feel worthwhile and all that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And I think like the personality traits, the astrological traits, the like Enneagram traits of someone who is going to be the human design, right? Of like people that are going to be the ones that have this creativity and this like big idea type of stuff don't always exist along with
Oh yeah.
the traits of
Mhm.
like details and spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like that often isn't a married combination within a
One
single
person.
individual.
Right.
So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really nice when you have people that can
support.
play both roles and complement each other.
Mhm.
Well, and I think the other aspect to it is like, I mean, Francine, when you're like excited, like a course lands in your mind and it's like, you want to do this, right?
Mhm.
It's so fun to have that hit, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh, I was up all night.
yeah,
Right.
Legitimate, like
Yep.
all night long in the bed with the baby sleeping next to me, just light,
Yep.
the darkness. I get really inspired. Yeah.
yeah, and that part of it is like, it's fun, it's creativity at its best. You're like
So
fueled by
fun.
it. It feels really interesting and exciting. You want to like even learn more yourself to better show up for your students, like
Mhm.
all of that. And so
Oh yeah, it's like I'm studying all the time.
yeah,
Mhm.
Everything all the time in every program. I'm still always learning and
Mhm.
trying to take new courses and read new books about all the different topics that we
Yeah.
cover.
And it's
But sorry, go ahead. You were
yeah. So it's like it's hard to have that like creative
Fire.
download fire, right?
Mhm.
Rise up and not immediately the next day being like, I'm teaching this class next week. Like,
Exactly.
when can I teach this class? I'm going to teach this class. I'm so lit up by everything that's going on, right? So
people need it now.
Right. I can't believe we haven't taught this course already.
And then I'm like,
crazy.
where's your web copy? Where's your
Yeah,
imagery? Where's your
Jessica,
like
we're doing this. No.
Right.
We can. We have
Hold
to
on,
we have to
there's not
advertise
doing this
it.
next week, right?
Yeah. Did you
So
do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Yeah.
So I think that sometimes it's that awareness too of like, how do you sustain, being able to
Mhm.
sustain the fire and the excitement about teaching something without putting the cart before the horse? Because if you put the cart before the horse in course design, it inevitably will end up being sloppy
Mm.
and students will experience the sloppiness and of course everybody can be forgiving and gracious and all those things like, oh, we're learning as we go. And when you've taught as many courses as we have, like there's a bit of responsibility of no, like we know that the more responsible way to do this and the way that it's going to serve students better is to hit that pause button while the back end pieces are being built out, like really getting a chance to look at all of these brainstorms that we had and all of the creativity
Mhm.
and all of that.
Hmm.
And I think that sometimes can be, like you said, with different astrological signs, different Enneagram types, different human design, right? Like if you don't have a grounding mechanism and you just like run with a course without these pause checkpoint type of opportunities, like the course can be presented in a sloppy way.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the hardest parts about being a teacher is sometimes you're so into what you're teaching, like Francine, you're like, I'm reading constantly, I'm getting more information just because it's like, it's not even like hard learning because it's like giving you so much juice. You're like, I got more and more and more.
Mhm.
And then not to lose sight of the idea, the fact that like your students are like, level 1, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And like, you have to
Yeah.
talk to them like they are.
Yep.
And not as, you have to like almost like pull yourself back and don't forget that they are noobs at this.
Mhm.
And I am a little bit more learned than they are, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's always like the hard part. Don't forget
It
that your
is.
students are like as nervous and don't know anything.
Yeah.
And even your word choice can affect like what they can retain because they
Mhm.
may
Right.
not know what you're talking about.
I'll never forget the first Kundalini like series that I taught, and it's like you just want to give everybody everything.
Mhm.
Yes.
You want everyone to know all the pieces, all of the things, and it was. I mean, as many of us know, it's a powerful practice. It's deeply transformative. It's energy body stuff. It's a lot of healing stuff. And it was just so much in a 6-week period of time that, you know, people were like, what is going on? You know, like, I don't even remember what you said last week about the pituitary gland or whatever. So, you know, there's that art too of layering information, and the less is more often.
I had the same thought when I was making the D&D characters for everybody.
Yeah.
I was like looking at this character sheet, and like I've seen this sheet for years, so I know what all these things are. I'm like, no one else does.
Mm-hmm.
But what do they need to absolutely know? And I'm like, I'm going to highlight the 4 boxes that are essential. Everything else is unnecessary. And like part of me wants to be like, oh, but like you get this bonus if you have double-handed weapons and you use your daggers. And if you use your long-range weapon, you got to add your this bonus and this bonus. I'm like, just, I mean, there may be a time for all that, and that is just not now.
Because it is. It's like learning another language, right? Like I think that's an easily equatable idea for folks. Like it's like learning another language, and so you don't start out learning like, I don't know how to. I can't even think of it.
Well, I mean,
like,
like,
you learn how to say like hello, right? Yeah, you don't
Your
learn how to like
first class in Spanish is not how do I order at a bistro. It's just like
Hola.
Hola. Me llamo.
¿Cómo estás?
Yeah.
Muy bien, y tú.
Me llamo Jessica.
Okay.
I mean, I've been practicing for 700 days, and I feel like I'm still there.
Stop it.
Still on Hola.
You were doing great.
Do you watch
I'm
TV?
sure that's not true.
No, we were talking
No,
about
I
this when we were
gotta-
in Guatemala.
You should watch TV with the
I know, but
Spanish.
part of the problem is I don't actually watch that much TV. And when I was saying to Jeannie, like when I am watching a show, it's because like I've gotten into this show and I want to watch
What
it.
if you would
and
just
I,
watch
Listen to
it?
music.
yeah,
Oh,
start listening to music. Yeah.
What about watching it with Spanish subtitles in English or with
Yeah,
Spanish
maybe
subtitles?
I could do that
It's like you can hear the English and then see
and
the
read the
Spanish
Spanish.
words.
And my Spanish reading is actually better than my speaking.
Spanish.
So when I was a kid, my parents would talk Spanish, so we didn't understand what they were saying because we lived in a
Nice.
1-bedroom apartment and we could hear everything. So they would only speak Spanish when they didn't want us to know what they were saying.
Oh.
So they didn't really teach us Spanish
So it was their
growing up.
secret
so it was
language.
their secret
It was
language.
their secret
And we'd be
language.
like, what are they saying? And so what I learned was from listening to music. And then I would come to my dad. I'd write it down the best way I could.
Yeah.
Mark Anthony songs. 'Cause I had a big crush on Mark Anthony when I was little. And I'd come and I'd sit down and say, what is that? He would laugh at me. He goes, this means this means that. And I'd write it down. And I'd go back to the bedroom, close his door, and just sit there and read it and play the song again. That was how I
Amazing.
That's
learned what I
amazing.
learned in Spanish.
Yeah.
That's
At
cool.
that age, at least.
Yeah.
Until I got older and middle school Spanish class and things like that. But
Yeah, I
elementary school, that's
decided to
it.
take French, so
Yeah, there you
We
go.
took French together.
Yeah.
we did.
French is fun.
Yeah, I think that it's important to understand that whether you're creating a 6-week embodiment movement type of course, or you're teaching somebody a game or a language, like the fundamental principles are the same, which is like not to use like heavy teacher jargon, but like what is the goal here? Like what do you want the students to come away with?
That's not heavy.
And like landing in, because I didn't say learning targets.
Oh, yeah. You're right, thank you.
What do you want your students to come away with, and what is necessary to ensure that that will happen? And then anything else above and beyond that doesn't feel overwhelming is like icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It's
It's like, what do they need to, not only what do you want them to know, but like, what do they need to continue? Right. I mean,
Right.
my only anchor in this is teaching like board games. So like part of it is like, I know this rule is a rule, but if I explain it after I already explained these 4 rules, they're going to be lost.
They're going to be lost.
So I'll just wait till it comes up in the game until they try to do it. I'm like, nope, you can't do that. I'm like, why? And if I explain it to them, then it's like, oh, it may stick because it was an actual experience, not
yeah.
me just dictating the rules.
yeah.
But I also find it hard to find a balance when I'm developing curriculum for online courses between people who are new to Kundalini, who have never taken a class, who know nothing about mantra or any of these things. They know a little bit, but they come in like a blank slate. And then people who have taken our programs,
Right.
Right.
graduated
Who've
200
gone
hour,
all
300
the way
hour
through.
students
Right.
coming into
Right.
Kundalini dance, and they want to experience something new. And the new people
Yep.
want to experience very beginner, introductory level information. So it's hard to find the balance there because
Yeah.
you want to make everyone happy.
Well,
which is
you want to
impossible.
make everyone happy.
Which is impossible.
I
Which
do
is
wanna
impossible.
Make everyone happy.
It is impossible.
I'm like, I
I'm
don't.
still, I'm still
Jessica's
learning
like, I
that.
am making
She doesn't-
anybody happy. That's not why I'm here.
That's not why I'm
Well,
here.
and what is true,
I
so
want him to have fun. I want him to
Mhm.
say, this was great, you know?
from a more traditional teaching perspective, right? Your focus always has to be on the students who need the most
Mhm.
support.
Yep.
Because the students who keep coming back, like they have enough skill to amp up their own practice or to take it to the next level. And they might actually even be learning, since we are a teaching school in particular, those advanced students are getting to learn through our modeling, how to show up for students who are new, which is perhaps one of the most important things that
That's
anybody
very
can
true.
learn.
Mhm.
You know, so it's a little bit, it's kind of like when I would teach a lot of vinyasa yoga, I would watch all the time, and this isn't a judgment, it's just what I witnessed in a lot of vinyasa classes, is the teacher in the front of the room is demonstrating the hardest level of a pose, right? If we're going to
Because they
talk about
can.
right. If we're going to talk about pose hierarchy and
Uh-huh.
things being, more advanced, which I absolutely
I mean,
hate all
more-
of that language.
Yeah. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, it is advanced. I
No.
mean, really?
Not really.
Like, if you were going to do it would you do it the way the instructor did it as a beginner? If she is like, this is a more,
It honestly
know?
depends, because like we could say in one context that a shoulder stand is an advanced posture.
Mm.
All right.
seems like it.
For some people,
Oh, they can
popping
just
up into
pop
a
right
shoulder
up.
stand is like not a big deal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how would that be advanced for them? It would actually probably be more advanced if they were in a deep hip opener.
Mm.
And then there's going to be people whose hips are naturally like very flexible, very open, externally rotated. Coming into pigeon pose, it's like
Psh,
whatever,
easy
pigeon pose.
peasy.
You could just take a nap in pigeon pose.
I can.
You know,
Very
That-
proud of my pigeon.
that
pose.
would not be an advanced pose for you.
It's
But
true.
I could say that many of the, more masculine embodied people that I've taught
Oh yeah.
struggle with
Mm.
pigeon pose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like Josh's hips. What are we doing about Josh's hips? What are we gonna do about those?
Poor thing.
Right. So the idea that something is advanced is an illusion.
It's relative. I won't
It's-
say it's an illusion. It's
All
relative.
right, you can say relative. I'm gonna say illusion. And so now I lost where we were going with the hierarchy of poses.
Teaching to the
Oh,
lowest
yeah.
level, teaching to.
So when
and-
it, when a teacher is demonstrating like a pose that might feel unreachable for the majority of the people in a room,
I mean, even for 30% of the people. in the
yeah,
room,
it just
like-
it doesn't feel like an inspiring, oh, I can do this and I want to do this and I want to keep coming back to doing this. It can feel very defeating. And it's much more important to demonstrate as the teacher and to show in the front of the classroom the posture that everyone has access to, and then moving it up from there, progressing from there into different options based on how it feels in your body. That would be a better approach. And it's the same thing when you're teaching concepts or when you're teaching a bigger class like Ayurveda. When I've taught Ayurveda courses, there's always going to be the students who come in with a certain body of knowledge of Ayurveda, and then there's going to be the students that have never heard the word dosha in their lives, and
Mhm.
like it doesn't serve the greater collective for me to be using all of the jargon, to be talking about doshas and not breaking down and explaining things, because there's a handful of students who knows what that means.
Mhm.
So it's like you have to correct and hold space for the students who are the newest.
And I think
Mm.
that's like, it's reading the room, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's so important in all situations. Like, when people don't read the room, it drives me crazy. I'm like,
You're like, do you know that we're lost?
Yeah. I mean,
Do
that's
you know
not-
that we don't know what's going on?
Like, look at those glazed eyes.
I've seen that often. It's not uncommon if someone who fancies himself is very learned in a topic
Mhm.
gets very excited to teach about it,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's that disconnect where they're not actually teaching the students they have because they're not reading the room and they're not
Yeah.
able to assess where those students are at that time.
I mean, and I do think that that's a sign of a more seasoned educator when you are in the front of front of a classroom where you're in front of the screen, the camera, and your focus is on the experience of the students that they're having in that moment in time. And, you know, it has nothing to do with your practice, what you're capable of doing, what your body is doing, what your body of knowledge is. It's about them. And I think that like holding, you know, again, I'm going to use education jargon. You know, it's very fun to be subject centered.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really fun way to approach,
because you're likely excited about the
creating
study.
a course.
You're
You're like,
teaching the course because you're
oh my
excited about
god,
it.
chakras are so cool. You know, like, oh my god, I want to, you know, I want to teach about Tara. Like, you know,
Mhm.
it's so easy to get really, really grounded and centered around the subject, and that's okay for course planning. But once you're executing, the classroom itself has to be student centered.
Mm.
Otherwise, your students are going to have the experience of either being overwhelmed or being lost and frustrated. And they're not going to experience at the end of that course a longing to know more. They're going to have the experience at the end of that course of, all right, I made it through. I think
Check that
I
off
took
my list.
I think I took something away from that, you know, like it's much better of a student experience to end a course and be like, oh, I'm hungry for more about this,
Mhm.
rather than my brain has melted for the last 6 weeks and now I'm tired because I just tried to figure out, you know. And that's why this is different. Like it is a different scenario than talking about a certification, a 200 or 300 hour program, because
Mhm.
those are deep, immersive dives. That's different. We're just talking about like a 6-week course, a short course.
I just had a thought while you were talking about that, because like I take online courses
Mhm.
and I mostly do them with my camera off.
Oh.
Which means, and I look at the screen and like, say there's 27 people in there, like 18 of them have their cameras off.
Yeah.
So you actually, as
Can't
an
read the
online
room.
teachers, you can't read the
Yeah.
room.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
It
am
is tough.
engaged, I swear. So like, I don't want to be like focused on my little face in that
Mhm.
box. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I mean, it is really hard. I think that's one of the hardest parts about teaching online is
Yeah.
that, you know, I mean, I want students to be comfortable. I don't want people to feel like they have to like do their hair, put on makeup, show up for class, like, and no amount of saying that at the beginning of class, like,
Mhm.
you know, people are conscious. You're conscious when you're on camera of the
Mm.
fact that you're on camera. I certainly am. And so you want to say like whatever you're comfortable with, like you don't have to turn your camera on. It's fine to keep it off, like all of that. But it is definitely useful as a
Mhm.
teacher to be able to meet the needs of your students if you're able to read the room, if you're able to read their expressions. I mean, I stared at teenagers for years in classrooms. I am really able to tell who's engaged and what's going on by the looks on their faces.
They don't
Sheer
try.
boredom.
They don't try to hide it either. They make it easy for you.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Teenagers.
Yeah, so you know, that's a really good point about online teaching, is that when students make that choice to not be on camera, it is hard
Mhm.
to read and to know like sometimes I find myself even saying that a lot of times in class. I'm like, is this making sense? Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Because and like tell me in the chat if you are confused, because I can't see any faces. I have no idea if you're all like, lady, what?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
what is the like, how do you initiate that download of a new course, or like what usually sparks it for you?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was curious about that too. Like,
That was going to be my next set of questions. Like,
Yeah.
walk me through the inspiration to the creation. Like for
Mm.
either something hypothetical, something you might want to do, or something you've done before.
Wow. Well, for Kundalini dance, my inspiration. So all of my life, since I was little, I wanted to dance. I wanted to be a dancer and a gymnast. And my dad was like, no, you're going to be a musician. He wanted me to play an instrument and he wanted me to be a martial artist. So I whenever I could, I would take dance classes at school, free dance classes. And anytime that I had the chance to audition for something, I would try. And I would be the only one that would show up with no tutu, no leotard. I'd be like, I'm going. I really want to do this. And they would take my foot and try to see how far I can arch my foot, and all of these little ballet techniques that I didn't know what they would do. They would say plie, and everyone would plie, and I'd be like, and I would look at everyone like, that's it, right? And I would try. I tried all of my life. And I never really made it into any of the schools that I tried out for or any of those things, but I loved to dance. It was what I would do to feel better. And I didn't even know that as a young child. I would lock myself up in my parents' bedroom. I would turn on the radio. I didn't want anything to do with anyone once I hit like middle school. That's for sure. I was like, get away from me, to all of my brothers, you know. And I locked myself up in the room and I'd play music and I would dance. And I would just dance crazy. I would dance softly, gently. I would sing really loud. And I had no idea back then that that was actually like benefiting my nervous system. It was
Soothing you.
benefiting it was helping me. It was allowing me to keep my voice, my throat chakra open as well. I didn't know that as a child, but I felt so like I didn't get to express myself. And that was how I expressed myself, was in that bedroom all by myself. So, you know, I grow up and I find Kundalini Yoga. I fall in love with Kundalini Yoga thanks to Jeannie. It has changed my life. And then I heard about Kundalini dance and I was like, wait a second. You can dance and do Kundalini at the, like, you can make your own dances that are focused on chakras, and you can like move energy in the body through dance. And I was like, all right, this is it. This is gonna, and I when I took Kundalini dance classes, I felt amazing. I was like, this is, I felt like at this point, I've come to the point where I feel like that's my calling. Like I feel like I settled in too, that this is,
That's your
it
practice.
lights me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kundalini yoga did and does, but Kundalini dance takes it to a whole nother level for me. It brings me back to that childlike state. And so in inspiration creating the course, I feel like I've always been sort of being nudged in this direction to be in this moment right now, making this all happen. But yes, so the inspiration was Kundalini Yoga and my love for dance. And then taking classes and learning more about it and how to deliver it as well. So that was really what inspired me. And then I have the understanding of the subtle body through my training with Yoga Farm and being an educator through the 200-hour and 300-hour programs for a couple of years now. And so that's what I used, my understanding of the subtle body combined with my understanding of Kundalini Yoga postures, combined with dance, and made it more.
Well, and you
my own.
also incorporated this round of Kundalini dance with Sally Clemton's book,
Yes.
Awakening Shakti.
Yes.
And, you know, like that often reading a book will spark a course for me. And so, I mean, not all the time, but pretty often, like I'm moving through something, I'm reading something, it feels really inspiring. And it also feels like this text can be taken to the next level with movement, meditation, breath work to incorporate the theory that we're reading about into embodied practice. And so like that also happened to you
That
this
also
time.
happened,
You had been
yes.
reading Sally's book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I started to dive into learning about the different goddesses of yoga, and I got really excited about the different archetypes and how they present themselves within us. And I thought it was really cool. And I researched different books because I wanted to bring a textbook into the course. And I was researching, and I stumbled across this book and others as well. And I ordered them and I started reading them. And then I was like, this isn't the one. This isn't the one. And then when I read her book, Sally Kempton's book, I was like, immediately just couldn't put it down. And I was like, that's the book.
Yeah.
This is the one.
It's a really good book.
It's an amazing book. She's wonderful. so many beautiful meditations and ritual practices in that book already. It's just so full of beautiful practices and information about the goddesses.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, teaching a course, like a short course, is usually sparked by something I've read and want to expand more on. I feel like in a lot of spiritual spaces and places, things stay very theoretical. So it's very mental body. We're thinking about things, we're questioning things, we're doing awareness practices. Like it's still very much in the mind and thinking about thinking and thinking about why we think the way that we think. And all of that is fantastic. And I believe that only gets us to a certain part, and engaging in embodiment and digesting what it is that we're learning often has to come from a place of movement, meditation practices, breath work. Like we can move energy through actually physically doing a thing, or we can move it with breathing, with chanting, with mantra. So, for me, it's like, can I take this text and bring it into an embodiment practice? And other times it has a lot to do with what is going on in the energy field of the collective. So a few years ago, I taught that course. It was the Summer of Love course, and it was 2021. So like we had done the whole first year of the pandemic, and people were starting to want to be out there in the world more, and then they were getting sick again, and it was just this like moment in time where people were feeling very disconnected, lonely, and separate from their communities, and kind of being burnt out in some ways of connecting, longing to be in person together. And so that course was birthed from that place of, can we deepen into opening heart space? Can we engage in practices and community together? Can we find this antidote to being really lonely and isolated with wide open hearts and deep connectivity? So that course came from what could be useful to people in the collective, and that's where the Tara course came from as well. It's the course that I'll teach this summer is all about understanding how we have landed where we have historically, and the lens of social justice and the spiritual practices that can sustain us when we're feeling overwhelmed and disheartened and like the world's lost its freaking mind.
Well, and like when we want to engage, right? But we feel like it's just sapping our energy.
Yeah, we feel like totally tapped out, burned out. So how to like calm your nervous system, practices for that, and then being able to re-engage. So it can come from either places. It can be like the outside inspiration of something I've read and been studying, or the outside inspiration of what could be useful to people in the collective, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good. Francine, what you said reminded me of The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron, about like your artist now as an adult is basically your inner child. And like that book is about like how to unblock yourself creatively. And it's just like reignite that inner child, because that's where your creative self is. So what would they kind of like, what's the energy they would bring to this thing? When you feel that kind of energy and juice, run with it. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
My inner child was playing Little House on the Prairie all the time. So what does that mean?
You need to bake your husband more pies.
It's not bad.
Matt loves a good pie.
I do. I love a dessert. Anything you could, I love it.
What did your inner child do? What creative things did you do when you were super little? Do you remember?
I colored a lot, like kids do. I played outside, and like he played like stomping around in the woods.
Well, I do
like,
think that
Stomping
you
around in the woods.
stomping around in the woods.
well, you had like a shit ton of animals.
Yeah, like I grew up on like a hobby farm, basically. I call it like a Noah's Ark farm. We had like 2 of everything.
Oh my god.
You were
Yeah.
really animal oriented, and I feel like you are still
I am.
animal oriented, right? Like when we were in Guatemala, there are dogs everywhere.
So many dogs.
Poor
Everywhere.
dogs.
Like we were like, there are a lot of dogs just chilling in Costa Rica. No, this was maybe like 4 times as many dogs.
Really?
Quadruple the dogs.
Holy cow!
Quadruple
For
the
real?
dogs.
Oh my God.
So many dogs.
Jeez.
Dogs everywhere.
Guatemala is dogs.
And like they're just walking down the highway. There's like, it's like homeward bound situation where there's
what does
just
that
like
have to do
four
with
of
me and
them.
dogs?
I'll get there. I'll get there. So, we're talking about creative process and inspiration, and how
homeward
our
bound.
and how our inner child often teaches us or shows us the pathway to inspiration,
yes,
right?
yes.
And by the end of the trip, Jessica's like, I can see myself moving to Guatemala and starting a dog
Like a
rehab,
spay neuter.
Aw,
spay neuter, rescue and
rescue.
release
that's a beautiful
sanctuary,
idea. Oh my
right?
gosh.
So,
Ship them back to the
Yes.
U.S. for homes.
I'm just
Oh, that's
putting
funny.
my 2 cents in.
I thought you
on
were going to
how-
talk about hot
Aw.
dogs.
Oh my God! Well, she also bought a package of hot dogs and was just handing them out to random dogs in Chichicastenango, and I was like, well, they were just following us around, and they were so cute and friendly. Like this was the other weird thing. Was
Mm.
You're just like
Not
a,
all of
a
them,
different version of that woman in Mary Poppins. Feed the birds,
the
top
birds.
into bag.
feed
It's
the
amazing.
dogs,
I'm the, like-
hot dogs in bags.
but I'm the bag lady from Mary Poppins feeding the pigeons.
Except it's just hot dogs.
Yeah.
It's just
Hot dogs.
bags of hot dogs.
Oh, this dog like came up. Like I was just walking along and I just feel like on my palm, give me your palm. I feel like a little like boop. And I was like,
Little
what?
wet nose. Oh, the wet nose.
And then he
That's-
followed us for like half an hour
They're saying
into
hi.
little stores and like just would lay down.
She kept booping the back
And
of my
booping
calf muscles with her
Jimmy's
little wet nose. I'd be
legs
like,
and,
"Wah!"
like-
You
Yeah.
know, like something's touching the back of my leg.
And I was
It
like, we
hard.
gotta
She
get this
could
dog
tell
a
you guys are
burger.
safe.
But then I couldn't find a burger, so I bought a package of hot dogs.
It's
The
amazing.
woman in that store was like, "What are you guys?"
I was
doing?
like, could you open it for me too, please?
We're just
Get it to
gonna
Tara.
eat raw hot dogs in the middle of your
Mhm.
store right now.
Yep.
Can you open this package?
Yeah, this package.
That's amazing.
I love that though, that your creative spark being kindled by
Mhm.
that inner child
Yeah,
creativity.
no, it's like it's a big part of the book where she
Mm.
talks about just like, and there's other like she has like assignments, but like tasks or ideas about how like to reconnect with that like inner child to be creative that you have like grown up and suppressed almost. Like it's
What
like
does your inner child want it to be doing?
anything or I don't know. I spent like when I was a kid, it was all Sporty Spice.
Yeah.
it was like sports. So
Was
it
that
was
you
just
or
like,
your parents though?
it was both probably. It was
Yeah.
like please go outside and run around
Uh-huh.
because this is too much. So like
Please
for
go
a very long time, it was youth soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then baseball in the spring.
Mhm.
And then I would swim in the summer
Summer.
on a swim team.
Oh, that's cool.
But like slowly as I got older, some of them kind of fell away. Like soccer, I hated it from day one. Not necessarily the running, but it was like everyone is shouting and yelling. Why is there so much yelling? I don't want to.
Because they got to communicate, right? Like on the
Yeah, and
videos
it wasn't-
Children's
yeah.
soccer.
Right, and it wasn't like yelling at me.
When that
like-
happens, it's so funny.
Oh,
Like
it's
one of my
hilarious.
daughter's
It's just
games,
like
I'm
bees.
just like,
It's
It's like a little swarm just all following the ball in one mass. Nobody is separating.
That was like when everybody came into the office today. I was on my con. Everybody was screaming. I was like, we just figured out. I was like, why is everybody screaming right now? All real
That's funny.
loud.
No, my inner child developed later because it was after like it was like 2004. I was done with college, was working full time, still living at home, about to start grad school, and I'm like, what do I want to be doing with my spare time? Like I've never had like this much flexibility, like outside of like being at college or being in school. I'm like, what am I going to do? And that's when I like re-dove back into like comic books. Got way
Mhm.
back into comic. That's when I was like, I have
Cool.
never read a Stephen King book, and I was like, deep dive. I like read everything I could, and it was like fiction, writing, comic books, all that stuff. So that's kind of that's where I go.
Yeah, I did a lot of
Nice.
reading as a kid too.
Yeah.
We read a lot.
Yeah, I read a lot. I just did so much pretending. So much pretending. And the funniest thing, I mean, now that I'm drawing parallels between like creative spark and what we did as children, my sister and I were constantly filming ourselves. So my grandfather had this giant
That's funny.
camcorder that you like put on your shoulder, like
Mhm.
huge. A VHS tape would fit in it, and you would record right onto a VHS tape. Like it was wild. And my sister and I were constantly recording things, and we had a soap opera that we recorded. That was called "You've Got to Grow Up,"
That's
and
amazing.
we had
I love that so much.
and we would do commercial breaks where we would go like we would go find like bathroom products in my
Uh-huh.
grandmother's bathroom.
Oh
We'd
my
be like
gosh.
doing commercials for like a douche because it was funny.
And it was the 80s.
And it was the
Yeah.
80s.
People were
And this was
douching.
just, and this was just like the funniest thing we could come up with to have a commercial about.
Oh my god.
But we were also constantly filming workout classes. So we
Oh.
were in like pantyhose, our Speedo bathing suits,
Like
leg
Jane Fonda.
warmers. Oh, yeah.
You were Jane Fonda.
Sweatbands. And we would like do our little workout classes on video. And then we would watch it and we'd be like, wow, we gotta reshoot that. That's bad. And here we are. So
Here
what do
you
you know?
are.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
know?
And you still wear those leg warmers.
I
up
still
to
wear those
your
leg
jeans,
warmers.
so-
But
We gotta find those VHS tapes.
I had
Oh my
it for
God.
such a long time. Like I remember even having one still in the house in Hoosick Falls in the brick house.
Oh, really?
But I haven't seen them since then.
Ew, they may
If
have.
those have gotten lost, that is a tragedy.
It is.
It's
That is a
definitely
tragedy.
not
Oh,
a tragedy.
no.
Oh
It's
my God.
tragedy.
Oh, there was even one where like, so we were doing this primarily when we were probably like 8 and 9 years old. Then on this tape, there was like a cut to us at like 13, 14, as if we were being filmed by like Dateline, you know? So it was like this. It was like, so what have you been doing since your workout video days ended?
really been living it up.
And
That's so
we would
cute.
interview each other and we'd be like, oh, like that was just such a toxic way to like be in the world, because we were all like emo 14-year-olds at
Mm.
that point, like black mascara and like got my pentagram on and dark lipstick. It was
Did your grandmother just love that? Like, that is just a time suck in a
I
good way. It's just like,
I
this will absorb
honestly-
so much time
I
and
don't
energy
think
from you
so.
guys.
I mean, like, I feel like our parents, our caregivers were not paying attention to what we were doing.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, oh, you're quiet upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
for
I-
7 hours.
I thought
We don't
this
care.
was a good thing. Like, they
Yeah,
must have
yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
100%.
definitely. And the fact that like we were filming this soap opera so often, and I had all of these young cousins that were like babies and toddlers, and so they would be our children in the soap opera. So not only were we keeping ourselves busy, we were
You were,
taking
like,
care of the
yeah.
small children that
Uh-huh.
were crying. Like I'm
Wow.
just carrying Gabrielle around like she's my baby on the soap opera. I just gave birth. This is my baby. So silly. Silly.
Oh
That's
my
awesome.
gosh.
Silly nonsense.
It's amazing. It's
Inner
great.
child creativity.
Inner child
Mhm.
creativity. I think we're going to have a whole episode on creative process or our individual art.
I love
When
it.
later on.
Sabrina and I finished the book with you.
How far are you? What week are you on?
Okay. We're
Oh.
doing really good at all of our book clubs, aren't we?
I'm on week 7, so I don't know where everyone else is.
Oh
I'm doing all right.
Like
Um,
week 3 maybe.
But I think like I mean back to what we're actually here to talk about. The thing about creating a course is I think often people approach this, particularly new teachers or like this seems like a sustainable way to bring in some income rather than just teaching drop-in yoga classes, right? So I'm going to create a course, I'm going to create a series, and there's so many advertisements online that are like, we'll help you create your course, like you probably see them scrolling. I think that the main mistake that people make is trying to figure out what people want to consume.
Mm.
And it's like, what can I teach? What can I offer that everybody wants to do? And there's not going to be enough creative spark and fire
Mm.
to fuel the relatively large task of course creation, course build out, course launch, coming from a place of what do other people want.
Yeah, people don't follow what you do, they follow why you do it.
Mm.
So, like, if you are leading with your.
Sorry, they were both like, oh. That was like the most insightful thing ever said on my YFI podcast. It was really good. It was really good.
Thank you.
Yep.
I got nothing
Yeah.
else after that. I feel like I should stop talking because that's not going to get any better than that.
Well, and I think this is why I don't tell you no, right? This is
Mhm.
why, like, when people come for the most part to us with these courses, like, it comes from inspired fire creativity. So why wouldn't that be a hell yes? Like if
Yeah.
you're, yeah.
And the want to help people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, wanting to be
Sweet.
useful,
Yeah.
wanting to be, to give people something that
Mhm.
can ease their suffering, embrace their embodied awareness, embrace their mind body connection, like these things.
Deepen
that,
into like the knowledge of who they are. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We create good courses.
We do.
Y'all,
Yeah.
y'all create good courses.
We do.
Not
And we could
too-
not do it
Mm, what?
if it wasn't for your freaking genius.
My back end.
My God. You can't do anything without your back
Can't
end,
do anything
Jess.
without
Do
back
anything
end.
without your back end.
That is a great way to bring this home.
Woo!
Moral of the story is thankful for Jessica's back end.
Yes.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it. I feel like this was the most digressive digressions in a podcast episode ever. Like,
Really?
I feel like we went around and about.
Really?
Back again.
I don't
know.
know. I
You
don't
think
know.
so?
I don't know
mean,
about that.
I'm not on every one, so.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
I
Did
think
you
we-
listen to the men in Kundalini? We went a lot of weird places.
No, I gotta listen. Okay,
Yeah.
I take it back.
Yeah.
I gotta listen to it.
We should have we should have a listen party.
Oh my goodness.
See what these two are saying when
That's
nobody's
right.
around.
Well, I mean, not to, that might be next week. It's going to be me
yeah.
and Josh's Dudecast number 2
Whoop, whoop.
because of people traveling and people not being around. So stay tuned next week for just me and Josh again. When I think the topic is, what's it like to be married to hippie witches?
Yes.
Oh,
That's
what
gonna be
is
a
it
good
like?
Isn't that good? I know.
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
Uh,
heaven.
It is
Heaven on earth.
it is that.
Mhm.
Well, thanks guys.
Thanks,
This is
friends.
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, this is the Wi-Fi pod. I should mention it's called Cultivating Community.
Yep.
Keep throwing it out there. Anyone, questions, comments? We'd love to hear from people about whatever we talk
What you
about.
wanna know.
What you want to know. What you want us to talk about in the future.
Mhm.
Hit support@yogafarm.us, or you can just email me at matt@yogafarm.us. So for the Wi-Fi pod, this is Matt.
This is Jeannie.
Jessica.
Francine.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.